Oh my gosh, guys, it's starting. Hey, what's up? Taoru here, bringing you the first episode of Hearthstone with Taoru. Now, like I said, I'm no expert, if you watched my channel video, no expert at card games, but I will tell you what I know, my own opinions on it. You know, hopefully get those who are new to the game, they'll just understand it a little more. So we'll jump right into one of my favorite classes, because it's just board control all day. Board control is when you have your minions on the board and they have crap. Basically, you have better stuff on the board all the time, and you're able to deal with the creatures that come out from your opponent. And Mage is the first deck you unlock. You actually have to play through the prologue with Mage. It's quite interesting. The prologue, you probably won't lose if you know what you're doing. But you could still lose if something freakish happens. But it really shouldn't. So, we'll jump into Mage. So, as you look at Mage, right now I have the basically set on basic set. So these are cards you can unlock once you go through levels 1 through 10 with Mage. So I'll start with these cards first. Arcane Missiles. Oh my gosh. Deal 3 damage, randomly split across enemy characters. So this includes enemy minions, enemy heroes, blah 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 blah. Personally, unless you're playing an aggressive deck, I would not recommend this card. Arena, it's decent. It's not amazing. You want it early game so you can clear off a minion with RNG. If you're like me, though, and your RNG is very bad, then this is probably the last card you want to take. It's a below average pick in Arena. Constructed, I guess you could get it to work. Not many people are playing it, though. Mirror Image. Man. This card is pretty cool. I'd say it's pretty good. If you have a Mana Worm and you're playing aggressive deck in the like aggro mage. On the other hand, 0/2s with taunts aren't necessarily threatening by any means of the imagination, but they can be annoying. And this counts as a spell, so if you have things like Gazet-Jan, which lets you draw a card, Mana Worm, which each time you cast a spell, you get an attack on it, +1. That's pretty good. I'll take it. In Arena, though, I would not take it. In Arena, this is a poor choice. Arcane Explosionato. Deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Okay, it's pretty cool. I mean, 2 mana, deal 1 damage. Early game, it's okay. Not many minions come out with 1 health. That's why you never see anyone play any real 1-drop minions, unless you're playing Hunter. But still, if you're playing Hunter and you have to Arcane Explosion, then you're burning 2 mana you could do something else with. In Arena, I would not pick this card very often. I think it is a poor choice compared to the ever more powerful cards such as... We'll get to it. Frostbolt. Wow. You see a Frostbolt in Arena, you better damn pick that Frostbolt. This is probably one of the best early game cards in Hearthstone, and it's one of the best finishers in Hearthstone. Mainly because, as a mage, your hero power is deal 1 damage. And then you top deck into this. You have 4 damage for 4 mana. Like late game, if you're just top decking, which top decking means you have no cards in your hand, you're just picking off the top of your deck to see if you can draw an answer to win. You have 4 damage in your hand if you draw this. Really good card. Chill out or freeze or ice ice baby when you play this card. If I ever do that in a video, please like sue me or something. Arcane Intellect. Oops. Yes. So Arcane Intellect is draw 2 cards, and when you draw 2 cards, this basically explains the cost of how much a card is. Drawing a card is approximately 1.5 mana, in my opinion. So, it's decent. I mean, it's a card that's not great, not terrible, in Arena. So if you see it and the other cards are crap, you can take it. In Constructed, this card is decent if you're playing the aggro build, which is either Mech Mage or Mana Worm. So yeah, I like it. This is a decent pick in general. Frost Nova. Oh my gosh. So Frost Nova freezes all enemy minions. Yeah, that's about it. So basically all enemy minions on your opponent's side of the field just get frozen and they can't attack for 1 turn. This card buys you a turn But is that turn really worth it? That's the question. Playing against an aggressive deck, yeah, it's pretty good. But for Frost Nova, there's one combo that you do have to be wary about, which happens 1 out of a million times in Arena, which is Frost Nova Doomsayer. In Constructed, it's common because it's Frost Mage, but we'll eventually run into Frost Nova Doomsayer, and I'll be like, oh, it happened. Oh my gosh. This card just makes me so happy. I mean, the more fireballs you have in Arena, the more chance you have of winning, unless you have more than 4, which if you have more than 4 fireballs, then dang, dude, you're... Wow. 6 damage. Perfect for board clearing. Perfect for face. It's just a great card. I mean, how... This thing can clear 6 drops for 4 mana. That already is worth. But the fact that this can deal 6 damage... And remember our top deck lesson earlier. You top deck this and your hero power, you have 7 damage in hand. You only start with 30 life. So if you whittle them down and then hit them with this, game over. Fireball, if you've ever played this game before, you know top decking a Fireball and winning feels great, and losing to a top deck Fireball, it just sucks. You better pick this card in Arena. You better damn sure. Polymorph! Oh my gosh. Bah! This card is great. Like, it is clean removal. And then you have a hero power that deals 1 damage. So you can ping off the sheep if it's that big of a threat. But no. Polymorph, pretty good. I mean, compared to other cards, if you're not taking Polymorph in Arena, then I'm guessing there's either a Fireball or a Frostbolt. But, yeah. Take Polymorph. Polymorph, cool card, yo. Polymorph, very cool card. Water Elemental. So I'll tell you right now, the 4-drop minions that classes have in Hearthstone don't really impress me like Water Elemental. This card is amazingly good. With that freeze any character damaged by this minion text, you could basically end a warrior's life because a warrior is weapons. So the fun thing you need to know is what freeze is. Freeze mechanic basically says you miss your next attack. So an interesting thing that you gotta note is if they play a warrior and they attack into Water Elemental with a Gore Howl, the next turn they're still frozen because it's not a 1-turn clock. It's you miss your the next opportunity you have to attack, you can't attack. So basically using that to your advantage is pretty good. So a lot of people don't understand the freeze mechanic, and that's totally understandable because it took me a long time to understand it too. And Hearthstone has a tendency of never explaining anything. Oh my god. How many times have you lost this card in Arena? Be honest with me. Flame Strike. Deal 4 damage to all enemy minions. So a common thing about playing Arena against a mage is you do not load up the board on turn 6. Or turn 5 if they have the coin. Because this card will literally ruin your day, and then you will lose all your card advantage and everything. Flame Strike is probably my favorite board control card, next to Equality Consecrate, but that's kind of like, oh, that's a 2-card combo. This is a 1-card combo that just clears almost all the board, and it's in Arena. You can't guarantee you'll get Equality Consecrate. Well, this is a common, not even a common, it's a class card, so you'll probably pick up 1 Flame Strike in Arena. In Arena, I pick 1 to 2 Flame Strikes when they come up, but if you don't have it, it's going to be a pretty nasty Arena. Do not pick more than 2 Flame Strikes. It gets really bad after that, and your deck gets very cloggy. But still, OP card. Well, we're done with the basic set, which means we get to go to the stuff. You guys get to see the stuff I don't even have, so let's go to all sets. So the basic set, like I said, you can unlock once you level up your mage to 10. So, let's go to the stuff that you can't craft. So I have to go into crafting mode because I don't have all these. QQ. Ice Lance. Oh my god. Or I like to call it Mr. Combo Wombo. So Ice Lance has the ability to freeze a character. It's okay. Not terrible. But if that character's already frozen, deal 4 damage instead. So a popular deck is known as the Frost Mage, where you just have 2 Ice Lances, a Frostbolt, like a Fireball, and then some other cards on the field that like lower spell costs or increase spell damage, and then you wreck their face in for like 20-something damage of burst, and then they're like, wow, really? So, Ice Lance in a very specific format, pretty damn good. In Arena, this card is going to be pretty bad because you can't guarantee that you'll get the Frostbolt to set it up. Other cards that freeze the enemy and such like that. It's too inconsistent to take an Ice Lance hoping you can make Frost Mage in a Mage Arena. Oops. So, Mana Worm. Man, this card is pretty good actually. Much to other people thinking, my friends saying, Mana Worm is just average. I think it's pretty good. Especially if you're playing aggro. Mana Worm is a card that each time you cast a spell, it gets 1 attack. So important thing to note is mana cost, how much it costs to play the card, attack, how much attack it has when it attacks the enemies, hero or a minion, how much they lose on health. When the minion's health equals 0 or lower, that minion is destroyed. Same with the hero. Heroes start with 30 health each. Now, the interesting thing about this 1 attack is that it turns to 2 attack when you cast a spell, and thusly can deal 2 damage. Now, the problem with Mana Worm is early game, if they can stop it, then you just kind of burnt it, and you lost a card. But if they can't stop it, holy crap, they're in for a world of hurt. One of my old setups that I loved to do a lot was Mana Worm, Coin, Mirror Image, Mirror Images, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, 3/3 Mana Worm turn 1 with taunts, get wrecked, scrub, Frostbolt. Oh, okay then. Yeah, so basically it's decent. I would consider picking up this card in Arena if the other picks weren't as close or they were poor. Flame Mukanon. Damn. Flame Cannon is pretty good, actually. So, if you don't know, Flame Cannon is deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. The minion is targeted randomly through an RNG system of hell and cookies, but basically it means you have no idea what this thing's hitting. But, if they only have 1 minion on the board, it has to hit that 1 minion. And it can even hit minions with stealth or minions behind taunt. Like, a minion that doesn't have taunt can get hit by this. So, in other words, 2 mana deal 4 damage. Pretty good. Doesn't target either, so it won't activate stuff like Spellbender. Like, people play it, though. So, yeah. Flame Cannon. Good card. If you see it in Arena, I'd take it. Unless there's like a Frostbolt or something, or pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Early board control. Important. Oh my god. I just vomit every time I see this card. Unstable Portal. Add a random minion to your hand. It costs 3 less. So, on the very bad side, you could get something like Wisp, Target Dummy, Captain's Parrot. On the very good side, you could be like, I'm playing against you, and then you get a turn 5 Kel'Thuzad, and you trade off your Mech Mage, and then you're like, oh. Turn 5 Kel'Thuzad, so dumb! But no, this card is a game changer if you get a late cost minion. I mean, Ragnaros turn 5, Kel'Thuzad turn 5. What else is really dumb? Ysera turn 6. Cairn turn 3. Sylvanas turn 3. No, it's so dumb. This card is a game changer. Assuming you get a card that is costs 2 mana or less, you basically just played a 2-drop for this card, because if it costs 3 less and it already costed 2, you're basically playing it out for free. So there's no downside unless you get a 1 or less cost minion from Unstable Portal, which chances of that are like less than 25%. So 75% of the time, this card's going to do something pretty cool. Otherwise, it just sucks. In Arena, though, you always take it if you see it. It is just too good not to. Okay, shoutouts to my friend GD, who says this is his favorite card in Hearthstone. One of them. Chugga 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 chugga. If you go listen to the Russian and Korean voice clips of this, it's pretty amazing, actually. Freeze any character damaged by this minion. So basically, guys, this is mini water elemental. Really good. Still the bane of a warrior's existence. And you freeze them each turn, they never use their weapon. Snow Chugger is really good. You see it in Mech Mage now. It's a very good and solid pick in Arena. Yeah, you take this card. And it's also a mech, which is what I call it's an archetype, I guess. And basically, there are cards that support what this is, a mech. There are other ones that support Murlocs, beasts, and other things, but right now, mech is all the rage, yo. Sorcerer's Apprenticed. Apprenticed, yeah, that's right. This card is insane for multiple reasons. Your spell costs 1 less. That's pretty good. I think 2 mana 3/2 for a card is a fair trade. I think it's a decent price. But the fact that your spells will now cost 1 less is actually significant. I mean, let's take for example, turn 2 you play that, unstable or coin unstable portal, like, and then that unstable portal is like a 3-drop minion. It's Death Lord, or I don't know. Yeah, it's this card can be a game changer, especially if you have multiples of them on the field. You get major discount on spells. Really cool. Counter spell. Holy crap! When your opponent casts a spell, you counter it, and by counter it, it basically means negated. Like, it doesn't even go off. It doesn't. It basically, like, it fizzles out. However, card effects that, like, say, this happens when you play a spell, they still resolve. Yeah, they'll still resolve because the spell was cast. It was just, like, shot down. This is a pretty good card. In Arena, it's average, though. No, nothing too special. If you play it on the right turn, you could wreck your opponent, though. Otherwise, it's just like, By the way, Snow Chugger and Sorcerer's Apprentice definitely picks in Arena. The dream is when you're playing against an enemy mage, you drop this on turn 6, and then they try to Flame Strike you next turn. And then they have no mana, and they basically burnt their turn. Another dream is on turn 9, you play this against a priest, and they try to mind control something, and then they burn 10 mana, and then they're screwed. Really cool card, though. Ice Barrier. Man. When your hero is attacked, gain 8 armor. So, Ice Barrier isn't anything too impressive. It's just, it's average. I wouldn't call this amazing by any means. I mean, you don't have the abilities of armor like Shield Slam and stuff like that when you're a mage. But on the bright side, this card it's a secret. Secrets make your opponent play differently, I will admit that. But out of all the secrets that Mage gets, I think this one might be the worst. Not that I'm saying 8 armor is bad, but unless you're playing specifically to stall out and grab your Wombo combo Ice Lances, it's just not worth it. It's 3 mana. When you're playing in Arena, this card is a bad pick. So, yeah, as you see, I'm missing cards now. Ice Block. When your hero takes fatal damage, prevent it and become immune this turn. Wow. This card is pretty cool. Yeah, it's cool. I like it. So, the thing about Ice Block is that, well, if you're going to take fatal damage, basically that means your health dropping below 1, which is 0 or negatives. When that happens, you die, you explode. Well played, you have bested me. Yeah. You explode, basically, and this will prevent you from exploding for 1 turn. But why does that matter? Well, it matters if you have your Wombo combo, but you don't have enough mana to play it out. For 3 mana, you survive a turn, basically, which can actually be very, very important. Because you might have a Wombo combo to finish off your opponent, but you need 10 mana, and it is turn 9. You only have 9, and you don't have the coin anymore. Or you didn't even start with the coin. This will buy you that 1 turn you need to finish them off. In Arena, though, it is probably not a good pick. Mirror Entity. Oh my gosh. So when your opponent plays a minion, you summon a copy of it. And by copy of it, I mean the exact same copy of it. So when a minion comes out, and they get a boost, like right away, for example, Sword of Justice and a Paladin, if they play out a minion and it gets boosted by Sword of Justice, you get the boosted minion. You don't get the original. You get whatever comes out. An exact copy of it. This card is pretty good in Arena because you can play it out when you think your opponent is going to play out a big minion that turn. It can be a game changer. It's a decent card, but you have to play it at the right time. Otherwise, your opponent just plays around it. A lot of enemies, you'll notice, the first card they try to see or secret they test is Mirror Entity. And if it's not Mirror Entity, well, then they damn goofed. Spellbender. If you're playing this card, it's pretty good, actually. On retrospect, it's not terrible. It eats spells, basically. Now, the fun fact is, if they do Blessing of Kings on their own minion and the Spellbender goes off, oh my god, they got wrecked, because then it's a 5/7, and they just burnt 4 mana. Other things that are interesting, Mind Control will hit this, Pyroblast will hit this. Interesting. I do say so myself. Fun notes, though, is that I do not like this card as much as the ever so much better Counterspell, in my opinion. In Arena, this is probably a poor pick also. Vaporize. Rest in peace, my Fel Reaver. Hashtag 2015 early in 2015. So Vaporize. When a minion attacks your hero, destroy it. So that means when an enemy attacks you and you have this out, it's instantly destroyed. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know someone is laughing when I'm describing this card. And you're a terrible person for laughing at me about this. This card in Arena is probably a poor choice. I don't see anyone playing in Constructed, so don't worry about this unless some freak thing happens like me and your Fel Reaver gets blown up by it and you have like no deck left. Kirin Mage. The next secret you play this turn costs 0. So for 3 mana, a 4/3 is a very good minion. 3 mana, 4/3. Fair. Really fair. Now, add in that you get one of these beauties if you have it in your hand for free. You basically get 6 mana value. So yeah, this card is really good. And even if you don't have a secret, a 4/3 is respectable in Hearthstone because it can trade off with some 4-drops. Yeah, I like it. Really good. Soot Spewer. This card is pretty average. I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say it's bad. 3 mana, 3/3 is reasonable. The only issue is it's nothing too astounding. I'd call this card average at best. You'd pick it up if all the other cards were pretty bad in your arena choice. Other than that, though, not much point in taking it, though it is a mech. I still wouldn't take it. Not worth, in my opinion. Still, it's a mech. Maybe get mech synergy. I don't know. Cone of Overhype. Cone of Cold. Freeze a minion and the minions next to it and deal 1 damage to them. So, in Arena, I already said you don't really take Frost Nova because it just buys you a turn. And they just fill up the board more. And if you couldn't deal with it last turn, what makes you think you could deal with this turn? Kind of the same issue with this card. Though, it can make a difference in some type of way. I would not recommend it. Cone of Cold is just a poor choice, in my opinion, in Arena. Unless the other cards are really bad options, I would not take this card. It is below average. Echo of Medivh. Put a copy of each friendly minion into your hand. So, friendly minion means minions that are already on the board. Now, this card is pretty good and pretty bad in one way. The first problem about this card is you have to have a board. So, you basically have to have stuff on the board already. The second issue of this card is that if you're losing, this card becomes dead. And when a card is dead, that basically means you can't play it with any sort of effectiveness. And that means you're probably going to lose if you have it in your hand. It's a win war. So basically, you either win with it, or you die with it. You live by the Echo of the Medivh, and you die by the Echo of the Medivh. This card it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're below 10 health and you do this, and you have Molten Giants, you get the Molten Giants for free. Other than that, though, it's probably not recommended. Unless you're making a deck around it. In Arena, this card will be a poor choice because you can't guarantee you'll have a board. Ethereal Arcanist. If you control a secret, you gain +2/2 at the end of the turn. 4 mana 3/3 is terrible. 4 mana 5/5 is amazing. 4 mana 7/7 is stupid. So basically, if you control secrets, yeah, this card is really good. However, if you don't control secrets, this card is like, oh my gosh, why did I put this in here? In Arena, this card is going to be a poor pick unless you chose like 5 secrets beforehand. Okay, maybe not that many. It's a poor pick in Arena if you don't have secrets, is what I'm trying to say. In Construct, this card can actually be used decently because secrets are easier to play out with Kirin Mad Scientist, so on, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, Ethereal Arcanist, not a bad card. Not bad at all. Goblin Blasphemage. Man, this card is amazing. So if you control a mech, which is pretty common if you're playing Mech Mage, deal 4 damage randomly split among all minions. So 4 damage is already better than that arcane missile bull crap that I told you about, which was 1 mana, deal 3 damage randomly split. Well, this is even better than that, because it is 4 damage randomly split, and it's basically already in the card effect. So for 4 mana, a 5/4 is basically respectable enough. But if you play it out with the effect, you could argue that this is a 2.666 mana card for 5/4 stats in my book. That is, if there was a card that cost even 3 mana and was a 5/4 with no drawbacks, everyone would play it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just too good not to play. The best we have right now is a 3 mana 4/4 with a very crippling effect. But a 3 mana 5/4 with no crippling effect, this card is really good. And it's a very common card you see nowadays in the Mech Mage deck. So be prepared for this card. It is really good. We Spell Stopper. So basically, adjacent minions can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. That basically means it has the Fairy Dragon effect. Now, why this card is a thing, I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's any good. Well, it probably is in some way. But I just don't see it being very useful. 4 mana, 2/5, it's pretty bad. Now, if this card was a 4 mana 3/5, I'd say acceptable. Like, I would pick it more often if it was a 4 mana 3/5. Mainly because I don't think epics are really that good in Arena. If you see this epic in Arena, you probably want to avoid it, because you'll probably get something better. Fun fact, I would probably pick Big Game Hunter over this. Blizzard. Deal 2 damage to all enemy minions and freeze them. Well then. This card is a game changer. It is a playmaker. But the thing is, it costs 6 mana, it only deals 2 damage. Now, the thing about it, though, that's important to read is, unlike the Frost Elemental and the Chugga 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 Chugga, you don't have to damage the minion to freeze it. So if they have Divine Shield or something, then this will go through it and it'll still freeze them. And then you play out Doomsayer and try to wreck them next turn. So Blizzard, yeah, pretty good. In Arena, it's average. I'd much rather have a Flame Strike over Blizzard in Arena, but hey, pickers can't be choosers. And you do want some AoE in Arena. Well, I guess I'll save the legendaries for last. Pyroblast. 10 mana, 10 damage. Man. This card is really, really interesting because for 10 mana, you're thinking, man, Fireball's 4 mana and deals 6 damage. If we're doing the math correctly, this should be like 10 mana deal 15 damage, right? Well, no, not necessarily. This 10 damage is a lot of damage because it's a third of your health and it comes out of nowhere. You're not expecting it. I mean, 10 damage is a lot because it's like surprise out of nowhere. 10 damage, you had like 8 health left and you're like, I'm out of the Fire Blast range. He's top decking right now. There's no way I can lose. And then they drop Pyroblast on you and you're like, well, I lost. What do you know? This card in Arena is decent. I would only take 1 if you have the option. Because otherwise it clogs up your deck too much. Pretty good card though. I will not lie. Flame Levy. Well then. Flame Levy is pretty damn good. When you draw this card, deal 2 damage to all characters. And the only time you'd be playing this, by the way, is in the stall or freeze deck that I'm talking about. If you play this in any other deck, you are going to wreck your face. I mean, a lot of people probably thought, damn, we got gypped. Like, the legendary we got compared to every other class's legendary sucks. Well, you know what? Shut up. You got Unstable Portal. You get every other legendary, okay? So don't complain. This card's decent. 7/7/7/7, which is basically 7s all around. You have to be really lucky with this card, otherwise it can screw you over too. It is a mech. That's important to note. Flame Levy, in my opinion. My gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this. So you're gonna hate on me, but I would take Boulder Fist Ogre over Flame Levy if the pick came up in Arena. Just because I am too scared and I'm too much of a coward to deal 2 damage to all my characters and the opponent's characters. I'm too scared, guys. I don't want to I'm just too scared. I'm such a wimp. I don't like having Abomination, like a top deck Abomination. I lose the game because of it, because the Abomination effect goes off. Arena, this is a poor pick. Constructed, you can make it work though. Do you require my assistance? So whenever you cast a spell, add a Fireball to your hand. Now this is interesting because Fireball counts as a spell. That's right. So Fireball, add a Fireball, Fireball, add a Fireball. You dealt 12 damage that turn. Fun, even more fun is when you have 4 Sorcerer's Apprentices out, which all lower the spell cost by 1, and the Fireballs cost 0. And you just hit them with infinite Fireballs. The other fun thing is when, oh my god, what am I saying? This is like so dumb. The other fun thing is when your opponent plays Millhouse Mana Storm, and all your spells cost 0 this turn, and then Archmage just ruins your day. In Arena, if you see this card, you pick this card, unless the other legendaries are better, which the only ones, there aren't many better than this one for Mage. Archmage Antonidas, really good card. Well, that's my opinion on most of the Mage cards. So, let's assume you're starting, right? Basic set. I'll have to go out of combat mode. So, you get the basic set, and these are some of the cards you start with. Frostbolts you're definitely going to put in. Missiles are good enough. Intellect, Fireballs, Polymorphs, Water Elementals, Flame Strikes. So these are my favorite cards to put in when you start. And you're going to realize it's basically all spells. Well, these are minions you basically start the game with, and or I believe you start with all these. So you can add those in. Bloodfend is pretty good. Add a Cobalt Geomancer. You don't have golden, you have normal. Chateau du Sun Kuderiku. Yep. Yeah, I mean, in general, when you play Mage, you can live off of limited resources. Okay. So this is what I think is decent. This is what I'd play. If you're starting out and you have no cards, this is probably what I'd be playing. Like if I ever do a run where I just start my whole account over, go on like the European server, and I was going with Mage, this is probably what I'd start out with. Really cool. I mean, you can do a lot with this. So, this is part 1, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. You probably didn't, though. It's totally fine. Like I said, I'm no professional at this. But hey, hopefully you learned, and maybe you can now get your game on. Someone kill me.